Is AI replacing software engineering?
Artificial intelligence will replace software engineers.
For development, seemingly looming threat.
What's up, you guys? I'm back with another video, and in this video we're going to talk about the software engineering industry and the whole market and its state in 2024. So let's get started. Right, so this video is going to be broken down into two parts. The first part, we'll dive into what has happened and how the market has changed, and in the second part we'll talk more about how it is today and how it's going to be going forward. So let's rewind a little bit. We go back to the ZIRP days. ZIRP means zero interest rate policy. This was easy money days because companies found it very easy to raise money, and investors were easily investing millions of dollars in all kinds of startups just based on little ideas and the reputation of the team, which is still kind of true even today. But back then it was way easier, and we had all these crypto startups and random startups raising a few $1 million because there was so much liquidity in the market. What happened was this period lasted for a while, for the past 10 years up until I would say 2021, 2022. This is when things started to change a little bit, right? Back then, companies found it easier to raise money, so they were easily raising millions of dollars, and then they were hiring a lot of engineers, right? Because the way to demonstrate that you're spending this money in a good way is to hire a big engineering team. So there was a lot of obviously jobs and openings for engineers, and then once they hired these many engineers, they were able to raise the next round because now they have a bigger team, and then they want to have an even bigger team, so they want to hire even more, so they would raise even more millions of dollars, right? So this was easy money days even for software engineers. If you were a good software engineer, you had plenty of options to choose from because there's all these companies, they have all raised big funding rounds and they're offering a lot of salary, and it was a paradise for software engineers because you could pick and choose where you want to work, and people were misusing this even. Some people I personally know joined a company, worked there for a few months, and then on to the next one because they were getting even more money there. This was too good to be true, and I kind of knew at the back of my head that this isn't going to last forever. Well, it was the good old days. Anybody could literally go and do a boot camp or learn simple front-end framework like React and build a few clone apps like YouTube clone, Netflix clone and stuff, and show them as projects and easily get hired as a software engineer. Things have changed a little bit because in 2022, around 2022, things started to change, right? Because the Fed, which is the American Federal Reserve, decided to raise the interest rates. And this started the whole cycle where the whole world started raising interest rates. And now we are at a period where interest rates are above 5%. So the liquidity in the market reduces because people find it hard to get funded easily because investors don't have as much liquidity in their hands. So what happened? Basically, companies found it difficult to raise money. At the same time, companies were also finding it difficult to increase their profits because as there's less liquidity in the market, companies started to spend less money. And when companies decide to spend less money, other companies would make less money, right? So this snowballed into a place where markets started to crash. This was the turning point, right? All the big stocks like Facebook, Google, Microsoft all took a deep dive because the markets were crashing globally. And this led to a period where companies had to do something about it, right? I remember, because I work at Meta, I remember that at one point our stock price fell below $100. Something had to change, right? What happened? Layoffs.
Severe wave of job cuts in July with over 8,000 professionals laid off across 34 companies.
This was the worst time in everybody's career. I think it's not just engineers, it affected everybody equally. I would say in some companies, engineers were more affected, but in my personal experience at Meta, we had big rounds of layoffs, but engineering was the least affected. Because Meta is an engineering company and there are so many other software engineering companies which prioritize their engineers, but at the same time, during the zero interest rate days, they had hired too many engineers. They had to correct a little bit, right? I can share a little bit of my personal story at Meta, right? There was this day of layoff, which was in 2022, late 2022. There was this day when we were all in the office and suddenly we got an email that, okay, Meta is going to do layoffs. And then after this, all of our connections were blocked, right? We didn't have access to our own laptops because our laptops are controlled by Meta, right? So here I am in the office trying to log into Workplace and trying to access my dev server. And we just didn't have access, right? So everybody started to panic, what just happened? Did we all get laid off? It was, some people are saying maybe they tanked the whole Dublin team. But then we realized that this happened across company, right? They blocked everyone's access. And then eventually the people who were staying back started to get their access back slowly. It was one of the most difficult days in my career when everybody around me is panicking and people are crying, and it was a difficult day, right? But that's how it was. That's how it was across companies. Like some companies had it worse. I heard stories about Google in New York when these people went to the office and their badges wouldn't work anymore because, well, they had been fired. So yeah, it was difficult times and companies had to do this, like it had to reset, right? And this was the big reset. Keep in mind that this happened before even ChatGPT was released. So it probably had nothing or very little to do with AI. It had more to do with the interest rates and the liquidity in the markets and the fact that stocks were crashing left and right. Okay, now enters the savior, AI. AI is the big savior for all these tech companies, right? Because it promises that there will be a big increase in productivity, there will be a big increase in the GDP of the whole world, and that we will make so much progress that the AI will help us to create so much revenue that we will be in a state of abundance, right? Because the GDP will be so high and the companies will make so much money. And this is in fact true, right? Like we started to see all the companies start investing billions of dollars, like biggest companies in the world like Meta, Google, Apple, they started to invest billions of dollars in AI. And at the same time, who benefited from this? Nvidia, right? We all know how Nvidia has gained in terms of its stock value because, well, Nvidia was at the center of AI because all the companies needed this hardware, these GPUs to train their AI models. And suddenly it became so important, right? Because imagine OpenAI launches ChatGPT. Well, actually, I knew this because at some point I found this on Twitter that there was this thing called GPT-2 Playground, right? This is when I discovered this whole AI game and I was fascinated by it. Like you could just go into there was no ChatGPT application, but there was this little portal with like a little input box where you could say something like, imagine you are a software developer, now write me a code for this simple HTML page, for example, right? And it would actually output that word by word and it was pretty good. So they launched ChatGPT and just changed everything, right? Because they literally gave rise to this whole new industry of generative AI for software engineers. Because generative AI unlocks so many new applications, so many new kinds of applications that can be built now that were impossible to do before, right? And all this benefits who? Software engineers, because who's going to build these apps? Because there's going to be thousands and tens of thousands of new apps and software that's going to come out in, well, it's already started, but it's going to come out and it's going to grow even more as more and more people get into this and start to become software engineers, because software engineers are in the end going to be the ones building these software. Because what is a software engineer, right? It's an engineer engineer is a builder of things and software is what we're building, right? So all this generative AI software and all these other general purpose software, which can now get better with AI, can be built, but will be built by software engineers. Who else do you think is going to build all these apps and software? Is it going to be farmers, doctors, lawyers? No, it's going to be software engineers. Like the world already has a lot of software engineers and we're going to start seeing even more of them because it's now much easier to learn how to build, right? Like the AI is getting so good that it's going to assist you and it's going to help you and build whatever you want to build. And in the end, you're going to learn a lot and the learning process has reduced. Like today, I'm confident that I can pick up a new language and build a completely new tool which I had no background in just a weekend. It's that easy, right? And yes, it might vary from person to person. Like some people who just getting started might take a bit longer than me, but like they will eventually be able to learn whatever they want to learn to build whatever they want to build, right? These people keep saying that software engineering jobs are dead, software engineers are obsolete, but I think that's kind of the antithesis of this, because in the end, what they're doing is like, hey, I don't know how to code, but I can use Cursor and Composer and Replit Agent and whatever to build these apps. So with the power of AI, a lot of people now have the power to start building and like building new apps and new services. And in the end, what they're doing is becoming software engineers themselves, right? Because look at it, like in the past 2 years, since 2022, so many new companies have launched and they have had the fastest growth ever in history, right? Look at companies like Anthropic. They built Claude Sonnet, right? Which is like the top end of AI models right now. It's even better than OpenAI ChatGPT. Look at Perplexity. Perplexity is this new kind of search engine which they are trying to compete with AI to win the search market. There's 11 Labs, which is this new voice engine, which is actually powering almost 90% of the voice apps. Like wherever you're seeing voice interaction with computers, it's usually powered by 11 Labs because they're the leader in this, and they didn't exist 5 years ago. Then there's Midjourney, which is this AI photo generation app that didn't exist 5 years ago as well. Stability AI is the company who launched this open source image generation model called Stable Diffusion, and then it gave rise to a whole new industry of so many photo generating apps. Like we all see Levels IO Photo AI. Like this guy couldn't have built Photo AI without Stable Diffusion, without Stability AI, which again didn't exist 5 years ago, right? Look at Hugging Face. Hugging Face is this other company which is like the collection of all the models. Like every single AI model will be found on Hugging Face because this is like the central repository of models, right? All these companies didn't exist 5 years ago because there was no need for it, right? This generative AI wasn't a thing. So OpenAI single-handedly gave rise to this new industry and their contribution is done. I'm sure they're cooking new things and they're going to launch their GPT-5 and stuff and it's going to be amazing. But even if they just stop at this, they have done enough. They've contributed this whole new industry to the world. And now the world can take it over. Like the world is ready. All the companies are working on this, like including not just these startups, but the big companies. Like Meta has launched Meta AI. Like we have some of the highest density of talent, right? We have some of the best AI engineers. We have some of the best software engineers. And the same is true for Google. Like these guys have also built Gemini. And I think Meta and Google, Apple, everybody's going to launch their own AI. And it's going to be better and better because everybody's investing billions into this, right? But again, take a step back. Who is going to be building these apps? It's going to be software engineers. Like, yeah, you can call yourself an AI engineer, data engineer, whatever the new lingo, whatever the new jargon is. In the end, fundamentally, they're all falling into the bucket of software engineers. Like even in these AI companies, right? Okay, there is a role called AI research scientist. Those guys are the ones who have done the PhD, who are actually doing the math and statistics and to come up with these new models. But in the end, it's going to be software engineers who build these models and launch them into production and build realistic apps like ChatGPT. Like it was built by software engineers. ChatGPT was basically a front end, a React app, which was powered by this GPT-3 model or whatever, right? So in the end, you need to understand software engineers build software. And don't be confused. Software engineering is not equal to coding. Coding is a very small part of software engineering and it's getting smaller by the day because as these AI models get better at coding, they are actually offloading some of our workload as software engineers. So me personally, I think I would spend maybe 20 to 30% of my time coding in my day job because AI does a lot of the work, right? So I can focus on other things, other more valuable, more impactful things. Like a software engineer does so many things like, okay, first of all, you're solving a problem, right? Problem solving is the fundamental skill. So for example, if you're going to build software for banks, the banker will come and tell you their problems, but they don't know what they want. Like in the end, they have no idea what software is going to work for them. The software engineer figures out, okay, what are the requirements? Like requirements gathering is the first step. And then you come up with a solution. Like how do you solve the problem? And then you will architect a system to solve this problem. You will write design docs. This is what I do, right? We write design docs to propose a solution. And then we discuss it with other engineers and then we start building, right? When you start building, you break it down into smaller tasks and then maybe each task can be worked a bit quicker with AI because AI makes us more productive, right? That's the whole purpose of AI. Like the whole point between this like AI rise of industry, like why did the stock market start rising again? Because these AI companies made a bet that like, look, we are going to build this AI and it's going to increase the productivity of everyone around the world, which is in turn going to create more abundance and more resources and more output, right? It's not like, okay, we have built this AI, so instead of having 100 engineers, we can build the same things with 10 engineers, so we will let go of 90 engineers. No, it doesn't work like that. You have 100 engineers, they can now do the work of 1,000 engineers. So yes, smaller teams can produce more output, and that's what's happening today, right? We need less number of engineers to build the same amount of projects, but that doesn't mean the number of projects coming out will stay the same. The number of projects coming out will increase because like there's so much software to build. Like literally this is almost end of 2024. And I'm telling you, there's so much software yet to build in this world. There's so many problems that we can solve with software, especially AI powered software. And these solutions were never possible before. Otherwise they would already have been built. In fact, if you don't believe me, let's start looking at these companies, right? I have my laptop right here. All right. So if you don't believe me, let's take a look. Let's take a look at, I don't know, Perplexity AI, right? Perplexity careers is what we will search. Okay, let's go to Perplexity careers. What do we have here? Our values, so and so. Okay, look at who they're hiring. They're hiring for AI inference engineer, AI research engineer, AI software engineer, full stack, engineering manager, senior search engineer. So basically, these are all the engineers they're hiring, right? Like let's look at another company like Anthropic. Okay, Anthropic careers. So this is how, by the way, you look at the jobs of a company. Just search for the company and their careers page, right? Let's look at this one, jobs at Anthropic. Core engineering, senior software engineer infrastructure, staff software engineer infrastructure. So look, like they're literally design engineer. This is the other thing, right? Like designers are also becoming engineers, because in the end, the companies need you to build things, right? Not just design things. So designers who can learn to code with AI have an advantage, because they're also becoming almost software engineers, but they also have their design background, which is a plus. Like design engineering is a growing field right now. Let's look at other companies, right? Let's look at, what was the other companies I mentioned? Midjourney. Midjourney is special because they're like a small team. They're also like, I don't even know who the founder is, but let's see what they're doing, right? Midjourney careers, openings at Midjourney. So Midjourney is not hiring. Like I said, like Midjourney is this mysterious company. Let's skip them. Let's look at Hugging Face careers. Current openings. So look, Hugging Face is hiring senior front-end engineer, right? Senior front-end engineer US, senior front-end engineer Europe, developer experience engineer. Look, everybody wants these engineers, right? Like, who are these engineers? They're all software engineers. And okay, some of you might say, what about Devin and these other companies who are building software engineers? Okay, let's look at Devin AI, right? What is the name of the company? Cognition is the name of the company, right? Let's look at them. So these guys hypothesize that they will build an AI software engineer who will replace software engineers, right? Okay, so let's look at their jobs page. Open positions, general application, machine learning researcher, software engineer. Like, if Devin could build himself, why are they hiring software engineers? Because again, like Devin can maybe write code for you, and all it applies to all these software engineering startups where like they're building automated engineers. Yes, maybe they can build a tool that can write code for you, that can automate this code for you. And trust me, I work at Meta. We already have this technology within the company. We have AI. We have something called Code Compose that helps us to write code. And then we have like also now we are opening reviewers, which can review pull requests. But in the end, all of this assists software engineers in building the software faster, right? So I can do much more work in the same amount of time because I have these software engineering helpers, right? It's not, again, be clear that coding is one part of the job, and it's becoming easier because of these AI solutions, right? Like people talk about Cursor and Claude and stuff. Yes, they're amazing tools, right? Cursor can help you get started very quickly. Like even if you have an idea of what you want to build, you can prompt it to Cursor and then it can generate the code for you. But to be honest, if you want to build an actual app and launch it, you have to know already how it's going to work. Like what Claude and Devin and Cursor help you to do is get your output sooner. Like for example, if I know what I want to build, I'll have to write the code, which will take me maybe a week, right? But with Claude and Cursor and these tools, maybe I can get that code written for me within a few hours or few minutes even, right? But I need to know what this code is going to be. And that's just part of the job. And then what are you going to do with this code? Like maybe, okay, it generated the front end for you and it generated a few APIs and then you launched it. How will you deploy it? Deployment is also part of software engineering, right? You want to deploy it somewhere so that you can serve real users. Fine, you figured out how to deploy it and you're serving real users now, but then there will be bugs, right? These users will run into bugs. The moment you start having real users, you will see how many bugs you face. And bugs are different from errors, right? Like, okay, Devin can solve the errors easily, but what about runtime bugs? There's no errors, everything is working perfectly. It works on my machine. There's this famous saying, it works on my machine, right? But what if it doesn't work on the actual deployment? What if there's some nasty bug in the cache or whatever? Like there's always these race conditions and stuff happening that is almost impossible to debug unless you really focus and you know how the system works. You cannot debug it. You cannot solve these bugs unless you know how the system works. You need to understand the people who benefit the most from this kind of help is software engineers, because it's literally making our jobs easier. It's enabling us to do so much more, right? Because to build software, you need to know how it's to be built. And then these AI tools can help you move faster. Like I can get started in a language I never heard about and I can come up with a proof of concept within a matter of a few hours even, right? Because I already know the fundamentals, and the fundamentals don't change. It helps you to learn the fundamentals, to learn how to solve problems, to learn how to think about design and how to architect a system. This is the job of a software engineer, right? Like, yes, design people will learn slowly how to do this as well. Product managers might also start to learn this, but in the end, what are they doing? They are also becoming software engineers. As a software engineer, I think it's a great superpower for you to learn these AI tools and to use them for your advantage, right? In conclusion, the world needs a lot more software, and the people who are going to build these software, the builders, are going to be software engineers, right? Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's definitely harder than it was 4 or 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, like I said, you could just learn a front-end framework and build a few little projects, and that was enough to get a job. And you might have to learn a lot more and prove and demonstrate that you can do quality work and stuff. And you can still, there's plenty of jobs. There are going to be plenty of more jobs. Like Meta is hiring again. We are hiring a lot of engineers. Google is hiring. Like, all the companies have restarted hiring because the interest rate storm has calmed down a bit and the economy is getting better. In fact, Federal Reserve is going to reduce interest rate right about now. So this is going to get better, right? Like, it was just this period of time where companies had to adapt to this high interest rate environment. So the easiest thing they could do was lay off a big part of their teams. But that doesn't mean it's the end for software engineers. It's far from it. Trust me, there's so much tools we need to build. We have a lot of things to build, so don't give up. Well, with that said, I wanted to also talk about how to be a software engineer and how to adapt in this AI world. But I'm going to make another video on this because I think it deserves its own video. And this video has already been longer than I expected it to be. So with that said, I hope you liked this one. I hope you found value from it. I will see you on the next one.